Just as Jamal opened his mouth to speak, a voice from the back of the store interrupted them. It was low, almost a whisper, but the tension in the room shifted instantly. "I think we all need to talk about something," the voice said, and everyone froze. Maya's pulse quickened as she turned toward the sound, her mind racing. What now? Was this the person behind everything? And why did it feel like the walls were closing in on her with every passing moment? The voice came from behind a tall shelf, but it wasn't anyone Maya recognized. A man, dressed in an unassuming black hoodie, stepped into view. His face was partially obscured by a cap, but his presence was impossible to ignore. The room fell into silence as all eyes turned to him. Maya's heart skipped. There was something unsettling about the way he carried himself, like he knew far more than he was letting on. The manager seemed to tense up at the sight of him, his earlier confidence slipping away. Jamal remained unmoved, but the air between them thickened with unspoken understanding. "I've been watching," the man said, his voice cool but with a sharp edge. "This isn't about what happened here today. It's much bigger." The words hit Maya like a punch to the gut. Her mind raced. What did he mean? What was bigger than the theft? Was there something she hadn't seen? The man took a step closer, and suddenly, everything felt like it was spiraling out of control. "You all think this is just a misunderstanding," he continued, glancing at the clerk and the manager. But Maya didn't steal anything. In fact, she's the one being set up. Maya could feel the tension in the room escalate, but she couldn't shake the sense that something had just shifted, something she wasn't prepared for. The man's words didn't make sense. Who would want to set her up? And why would they go to such lengths? The stranger's eyes locked onto hers. "The truth is, Maya, you've been targeted for a reason. And it has nothing to do with that store." A chill ran down her spine. What did he mean? What truth was he talking about? Jamal stepped forward, his voice low but controlled. "What do you know about this?" The man didn't answer immediately. Instead, he glanced at the security footage playing in the background. "This isn't the first time you've been framed, Maya. Someone's been pulling strings from the shadows, and today was just a test." The room felt suffocating. The stakes were higher than ever, and now Maya was no longer just fighting for her innocence. She was fighting for something far more dangerous, something that threatened to unravel everything she thought she knew about her life. The room was tense, the weight of the man's words hanging heavily in the air. Maya's heart pounded as the pieces of the puzzle slowly began to click into place. She could feel the eyes on her, but now the fear was replaced with something sharper: anger. She had no idea who was behind this, but she was done being a pawn in someone else's game. Jumal's voice broke the silence, steady and commanding. "Who's behind this? Tell me now." The man's eyes flipped nervously between Jamal and Maya. He took a deep breath before slowly reaching into his jacket pocket. Maya braced herself, her pulse racing, as he pulled out an envelope and tossed it onto the counter. "I didn't want to be part of this," he said, his voice low. "But I have proof. The person who's behind all of this is someone you both know." Maya's breath hitched. Could it really be someone they knew? How was that possible? Jamal didn't flinch. Instead, he picked up the envelope, opening it with a swift motion. As he scanned the contents, his expression remained unreadable, but Maya could feel the shift in the room. The tension that had been suffocating them was suddenly replaced with a dangerous calm. Jamal turned toward the man. "You're sure this is real?" The man nodded. "I wouldn't be here if it wasn't." Maya's eyes darted between the two men. Her mind raced. The situation was finally starting to make sense, but there was one thing she couldn't understand. Why was this happening to her? Jamal looked at the security footage again, his face hardening. He turned to Maya, his voice barely above a whisper. "It's your sister." Maya froze. Her sister? How could that be possible? The woman who had always been her closest ally, the one person she thought she could trust. The man continued, his voice now more urgent. "She's been working with someone who wants to take you down. And today, they tried to see if you would crack under pressure." Maya felt the room spin as everything she thought she knew came crashing down. Her sister? But why? What did she stand to gain? Suddenly, Maya's phone buzzed in her pocket. She pulled it out, her hands shaking. There was a message from her sister. The words were short, but the weight of them hit like a punch to the gut. Asterisk, you're in too deep. Don't trust anyone, especially Jamal. Asterisk. The words echoed in Maya's mind as the room seemed to close in on her. Jamal's eyes were on her, waiting for her reaction. She could feel the pressure mounting, the truth threatening to break through the surface. But then, just as the tension reached its peak, the store's door swung open with a loud crash. Maya turned, and there, standing in the doorway, was her sister. And she wasn't alone. Maya's sister stood in the doorway, her face pale but her expression cold. Behind her was a man Maya didn't recognize, someone with a confident, calculating air about him. For a moment, the room was still, as if time had frozen. Her sister stepped forward, her eyes locking onto Maya's. "I didn't want you to find out like this," she said, her voice tinged with regret. "But I was forced into it. They threatened you." Jamal moved forward, his voice steady. "It's over now. You're not in control anymore." The man behind Maya's sister sneered, but it was clear he knew the game had changed. With the evidence in hand and the truth exposed, the tension that had gripped the store began to dissolve. Maya's sister finally broke, her facade crumbling as she apologized for her betrayal. As the police arrived to take the culprits away, Maya stood silently, reflecting on everything she had learned. Sometimes the people closest to you were the ones capable of the greatest harm. But today, she knew she had taken control back.